Hi guys, welcome to a new episode of Worlds Collide, the podcast about moving abroad. And I am your host, Viktoria. I almost said I'm your guest. No, I'm your host. Today's episode is about Edin, and she moved from Israel to Germany. And so I had immediate questions why she chose Germany out of all of the places because of the history. And yeah, so we talk about that for sure. And also she has a relocation agency that helps people to relocate to Germany. And she gives so many great insights. So if you're interested of moving to Germany, listen up. Here are so many great informations about it, and definitely find all the info to it in the show notes. All right, I don't want to take away too much. Here is Edin.
Hi, Edin. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing well. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, no, thanks for being here. I'm thrilled to have you because this is so... Let's start before I take anything away from the story because I have so many questions already. So tell me, where are you from originally?
I'm from Israel originally. I was born in Jerusalem. I've been a bit in the north of Israel, but originally from Jerusalem.
Okay. And where are you now?
I'm in Leipzig, Germany. So
yeah,
very different.
Very different. Okay, so how long have you been in Leipzig?
I relocated in 2017, November, so it's roughly 6.5 years.
Okay, and what brought you there?
That's a good question. Different factors. So first of all, it's important to note that I'm dual citizen. I have also Romanian citizenship.
Oh, so you already had the European connection there.
So I didn't have it at the time, which made things more complicated. But I was in the process already. So that was like, okay, now that we know Romania is something that I can use. So it was my husband and I, we had a whole process of, okay, we want to relocate, let's decide on where. And then it was like a whole elimination process. So we started in like EU and then it was like, okay, this country, no, because this country, no, because kind of like those main factors.
Okay.
It's important also to mention that we decided we want to move from Israel because of several factors. One of them is economic. It's very expensive to live there. The other one is religious wise because we are not religious and it's a very, very religious country. Politically also we didn't agree with what happens and like the situation that goes there in safety issues. I think now it's even more clear. But also then it was also still an issue. It was
always, right?
Always. It was always an issue. It was always an issue. And so we were kind of like, okay, we were looking for a better life. That's where the process started. And then back to the elimination process. So when we eliminated like all the countries, then we landed on Germany. Quite frankly, I always had Germany in mind. So it was a bit of like my secret wish that he will also figure this out.
Okay.
And then in Germany, we kind of went around. We came to Munich, to Stuttgart, to Tübingen. So it's like we saw some cities and we really interviewed a lot of people. Like we spoke with so many people just to ask all the questions.
Okay,
you know?
Who did you ask? Just random people?
No, we didn't stop people on the street, if that's what you're asking. We planned the whole thing. We have actually, I met someone who did like student exchange with my high school. So he helped us a lot. He even gave us his apartment. He was like super nice. We thought, are all Germans like this nice? How is happening? And so, so we were at his apartment. He showed us around. He we had so many questions prepared and he was like, sure, fire on. He was happy to help. And we also had another student exchange other student who was there, and we asked her also some questions, and also some Israelis who lived in Germany, so from different perspectives. So we were kind of like, fine, we are locked in on Germany, now we need to find the city. Again, we started the whole process, but that was actually really a coincidence when it comes to discovering Leipzig and really putting that as our goal,
Mm-hmm.
because we started learning German. We said, okay, we understand Germany is the goal. So we said, okay, now we are going to learn German. So we had like a teacher, and we used everything possible, like YouTube, all the apps and so on. And then we stumbled upon this video on YouTube from a guy who is teaching German, and he had like this video of why do people move to Leipzig
Mm-hmm.
kind of video, right? And then he
Yeah.
gave all kinds of facts about Leipzig that were really resonating with us. Like, it's a music city, it's very young, it's still cheap, it's like it's developing, all this kind of.
Super
It has a
hip,
lot of
right?
sun. Has a lot of sun. It was so important.
Yeah.
There were
Okay.
like there's a lot of nature, there are lakes and so on. So it's like, okay, check. Okay,
Okay,
seems
that
like a
sounds
good
all
city.
good.
Yeah,
It's super hip, right? Because I
for
know it's
sure.
so popular in the last.
Okay, now it's even way more popular than when
Yeah,
we
yeah,
came, for
yeah.
sure.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
like, I don't know. It's like the it city kinda. Yeah.
It's they're called Heitzig, so it's
Yeah.
like a bit of
Oh.
like
Yeah, yeah,
I heard that before, or like the New Berlin, or kind of, yeah.
yeah.
So there are a lot of like names about this.
Mm-hmm.
I must say, like, we decided on Leipzig, also like really interviewed so many people, like went on all those Facebook groups of Israelis in Leipzig and expats in Leipzig and so on, and just like
Mm-hmm.
asked so many questions. And
Okay.
then we were kind of satisfied. We said, okay, we decided to come here. We didn't see the city before relocating, so
Oh, you
that was kind
didn't.
of like, no, we were kind of like, okay, if that doesn't work for us, then at least from Germany it will be easier to find something else.
Ah, okay.
So that was kind of the decision, and we just did it, and we never left. So
And
it seems like
so
we're successful.
you just like found an apartment online and then you moved in? Or like how
Um,
was that then?
yeah, it was online. We did ask for like a tour, like a virtual tour, and
Yeah.
they gave us everything. It was fine. And then like the guy who we did like a sublet, and then the guy who was giving us the sublet, he was in Portugal at this time, so
Uh-huh.
he was really fine for us doing everything that we needed in his apartment for like 2 months. And his brother gave us the keys, so like everything kind of
Okay,
worked
perfect.
out. It wasn't that easy, because we did have several apartments that kind of, dropped out in the middle.
Mm.
We were supposed to go there, and then like, oh, this is a problem here, or there's a problem there. But then like we found that one, and we're like, fine, let's go with that
I mean, subletting, such a great idea. I would not even think of that.
one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well,
It makes it smart.
yeah.
But I remember like when I was a student, and I went for a semester abroad, or when I did like a longer internship somewhere else, I
Mhm.
also like subletted my room. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it is important, because we had this whole plan that we needed to register with the apartment with the address, and we couldn't have
Mm.
done this with an Airbnb, for example. So
Uh-huh.
we also aimed for sublets that would give us this option.
I see.
So yeah, we were very prepared.
Okay, and then did you okay, and then did you start looking for work or
No, we saved some money. We
mm-hmm.
really came prepared with that as well. We said, okay, because I didn't have the citizenship yet, then we had to be on a visa. And
Yeah.
the visa that we took was a very short term. It was like 1 year. And out of this 1 year, you can only work for 6 months. So we said, okay, we're going to come there. We're going to start learning German. We will focus on learning German with like those intensive schools, and then after that we are going to start looking for jobs. And we didn't have a plan into this looking for a job situation.
Okay.
It was more like, we will learn the language and then we figure it out, and that's
Okay.
what we did, kind of. Yeah.
All right. Good. And what struck you when you got there, like culturally, what was like super different for you in the beginning?
We first, it is like this, the beginning shock. First of all, we came in November. We were like,
Oh.
maybe that wasn't a good idea.
Yeah.
Coming from a warm country directly in November. It's like all gray, and then it started snowing at some point. You're like, what's happening?
Yeah.
And also, like, the language also strikes you. Yes, we did learn some of the language when we came there. We were
Mm-hmm.
not like fluent, but then it's like, oh my god, everything's in German. It was like really striking. But we were very shocked, first of all, with how quiet everything was. Right, we are like in the middle of the city, quiet. And in Israel, it's like you can hear people like yelling at each other from afar, and like you can hear noises of the cars and everybody like horns and stuff like that. And you're going from this to Leipzig being super quiet, even like in the middle of the street.
Wow.
Also something that was really striking was like the attitude and like how people react to you, because like especially those who have the understanding of what German sounds like from movies, it sounds very harsh and very like bass voice or kind of like that. And
Yeah.
then you hear the greeting and they're like, hello, like it's so high pitched.
Yeah.
Or like tschüssi, like the
Yeah.
hello, goodbye, stuff like that. And you don't expect that.
Okay,
in
because
the
it's
beginning.
all of a sudden it sounds so nice.
Yeah,
I
it was
like
really,
happy, yeah.
it was, you don't expect that at all.
Okay.
So yeah, it was kind of interesting.
And does the accent in Leipzig is really strong, and
Oh yeah.
did you have like problems with that in the beginning, or like still?
Yeah, I mean, when I started working as a delivery woman for letters.
Uh-huh.
And the people who were working there were not, like, some of them were very old and they had a very heavy Saxonian accent.
Yeah.
There was one guy, I could not for the life of me understand what he says. It was so difficult. I had to really put my, like, 100% of the energy that I had to understand what he's saying. Luckily, I didn't see him that often because we would be like sorting our mail and then just off we go. But it was very hard. And now the place where I live is a bit like less international and more like very local
Okay.
kind of people who live there. And there I hear a lot more of this like heavy accent. Maybe not that heavy, but it's still like it's very noticeable. But now I notice that I understand a lot more.
You
It's
stand a
still
lot.
difficult, but it's
Yeah.
like, hey, I understood that. It's like the whole happiness that comes with it.
Yeah, but you know, it's so funny because I mean, to the listener who does not know that accent, but I think in Germany it's considered the most unattractive.
The most hated. Yeah.
Yes.
Although people here, they're kind of like, but did you hear the people in Bayern? You know, they're
Oh,
like,
yeah, I mean,
it's
I
completely
also see
different.
this. Like, it's all right up there.
Really, it's so it's come from the perspective, but yeah, for sure, it's one of the most hated dialects and accents that you have in Germany.
But congratulations that you master it now.
Yes. Well, mastering is like a whole different.
But understanding.
I understand.
Yes. Okay.
I wouldn't go that far, but yes.
Okay, so I want to ask you this because that was my first thought when I saw your post. So how do people react when you tell them that you're from Israel?
So I would say before the war, I had no problem. Like there was really zero problems. And no, because it's not a given, especially for Israelis, that you say, hey, I'm Israeli outside and like nobody cares, you know, and especially in Leipzig, it's really like coexisting. They couldn't care less, especially like people from Turkey, Syria, like people that Israelis would consider maybe hostile sometimes. They were like, you're our neighbors. You understand us better than Germans. Like, this is our food. This is like our culture is very similar and so on. I cannot say that I had any problems so far. Very like physical for sure. The only problem I had is people who came to me with like, I would do X with you only if you say that you are anti-genocide or blah blah blah. So it's kind of like they came with kind of an attitude of, I think I know better of what's happening. I need you to be on my side. And then like we can continue from there. And that was kind of an attitude I was not expecting, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of weird expecting somebody says that to you.
Really, because you're like, you either, it's not a black and white. Like everything is not black and white. Every war is not black and white. So it's kind of like, A, you have zero clue on what's happening for real. And B, you are kind of, you pick the side, and if I'm not like in your this like idea of what's happening and what should happen, then I'm like deleted from your side. So it's a kind of person in the beginning I probably wouldn't want to work with or do something with. But it was a bit of a shocking to me. Like, I would imagine people would just ignore me or just decide not to work with me or decide to, I don't know, like, for themselves be like, okay, she's Israeli, I might just unfriend her or
Okay.
not work with her or something. But that was very direct approach to me. So it's kind of weird.
I was more thinking of if anybody in Germany gets like, oh, I don't know, because of the history. More like,
Okay.
oh, do you, why are you here? Don't you hate them all because of the Holocaust? And
that actually comes more from Israelis than from Germans, to be honest, because I think Germans are actually more happy that I'm there in a sense.
Yeah.
Because it's I don't know, it's my theory that they're kind of like, okay, so we are not that hated anymore, or okay, we can move on from this kind of.
Okay.
I did have kind of an odd situation that caught me also off guard. There is this church in Leipzig that they are doing the March of Life, and it's kind of like the march where they not celebrate, but they pick the day of the Holocaust Day in Israel to kind of do a March of Life, which is the opposite of the March of Death, which was like part of the Holocaust.
So to like celebrate.
It's not celebrate per
no, that's the wrong word, but
yeah,
I was
also missing
to honor it,
exactly.
Yes.
To honor it, to kind of mention it in a way that is also bringing hope. And they took upon themselves to really also celebrate like the Jewish life that's also existing in Leipzig and in other parts of Germany and also other parts of the world. And so I came there because of me being very active as an Israeli in Leipzig, like also with the Israelis in Leipzig. So, and I came there, I spoke with the priest, and he then decided to tell me like the whole story of his family. And also part of what they do there is they collect the stories of people who decided to explore the history of the family, of what did they do during the Second World War. What was the contribution of their grandparents to the Second World War? And it was like a whole project. And he told me about this because I was really interested. And then he said he put himself to, like, he wanted to put upon himself this mission to find his Jewish friends and to ask for forgiveness for the Holocaust, from everyone. And he also told me like, hey, I'm sorry for them. Like, I didn't know what to do with it.
But like, how old was he? I mean, he was
no, he is
not that old that he was
between
part
50
of it,
and 60, right? But no, he was not part of it. Like, his grandpa was. He heard from stories and from what he explored, but he's still feeling responsible for that somehow. And so, but he's feeling responsible for like the whole of Germany, kind of. He's really like the messenger here somehow. I found it like charming, but also I at that point I didn't know what to do. It was like,
I know.
okay.
I mean, it's like wow, it's a lot what you take on yourself.
For real, yeah. I mean, I did not experience any of it, obviously, and I have somewhat of a tiny story in my family that is related, like the Romanian side somehow has some knowledge, but I didn't hear almost any of it, so I couldn't know really what's behind this, really, or I didn't feel this deep problem in me because of that. So
when you picked Germany, that was not even on your mind.
It couldn't have not been on my mind, because when I told people in Israel that I'm going to Germany, obviously these kinds of responses are coming, right? Like, you would hear like, what are you thinking about? Why Germany? And it's like, but I came with the thought of, we are not in 1941. How about we move on? Like, I think if we stay stuck, then you're missing out on so many opportunities that, it's a shame to miss. And I see here how many are like, they never joke about the Holocaust. No. They're like, no, it's a serious matter. And like, hey, we have responsibility. And it's like, I see also the efforts that are being done for this material to be taught and to be passed on constantly. So it's like, I feel very safe here, to be honest.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. That was like my first.
Your concern?
Yes. I mean, I'm also German, so I was like, okay, so I don't know. I don't think I know any Israeli in Germany. I mean,
where do you live?
I mean, I live now in Austin, Texas, but my family is still like in the Dortmund area.
Okay.
And
there are some, but I think they weren't there for a long time. But
so
Berlin is infested.
Oh yeah, I mean Berlin, yeah, but the big cities always.
Yeah, but Berlin is kind of like the hub of Israelis. Like
Okay.
most
Oh
people
really? I
from
did
here.
not know that. What do you miss though?
The food.
The food,
The food, the sun. Like, yes, we do have some sun, but it's not the same. And also the beach, because yes, lakes are very nice, very charming, but it's not the sea, it's not the beach. Like if you're in Texas, you for sure understand what I mean.
The beach yourself.
And I mean, also from the housing perspective, like in Israel, for example, you'll find way more like open floor, like open kitchen and open living room. And then like the whole hosting is different because people are sitting in the living room or like on the dining room. And then like you cook still and you're talking, it's a whole conversation going. The smells are bringing people in, and you have maybe a big balcony that you can do barbecue in, and you can also sit down like in the sun and so on. So it's something that I got used to. And then I came to Germany, and then every room has a door. Some of the hallways have doors, and like it was constant doors everywhere. And the at least in Leipzig, most of the balconies are kind of like in addition to the apartments. And so they're mostly very small additions because everybody needs to have the same one. And it's like they made something happen just so a lot of people have a balcony, but it's like compared to Israel, it's super small. So.
It fits a chair, 2 chairs.
Yeah, like a chair, or like the hanging like rack for you to hang the clothes to dry.
Right.
And like ours fits really like that, the hanger, and that's it. Some have bigger, yeah.
So in Israel, it's like more welcoming. Like if I'm just thinking of like if it comes to like having like friends over and like
or family,
making them
so.
something food. So preparing some food, and it's like a whole deal. And in Germany, it's like you sit down, you're being served.
Yes, I mean the whole culture around food and hosting is different.
Yeah,
like our typical Friday evening meal is going to be made of many different salads, many different toppings, many different type of meat. So it's a whole table filled with food. Whereas like when I have friends over that are Germans and they see this kind of thing, they're like, what's happening? It's so much food. It's like the kind of thing that makes you feel whole, and like, hey, there's like a big table sitting, they're all talking, they're all like having fun, and it's a whole thing around food. And so we take it very seriously. The spices are different, the flavors are different. Yeah, I mean, every time I tell people I'm from Israel, people are like, oh, hummus, we love hummus, and I'm like, yes.
Well, I'm sure there's more than just hummus.
Absolutely, but it's like, hey, it's a good start.
It's a good start.
It's a good start.
But okay, so I wonder because so what do you do with the leftovers?
Well, a lot of it is basically being spread to the friends and family sometimes. So it's like, okay, what do you take? What do you take?
Okay.
It could be that, or like you have it for the next day. The thing is that most of the traditions come from like the religion, and also that's why Friday evening is like the traditional day or the evening. And then Saturday is normally like a resting day. So just like in Germany, there would be like, it's Saturday, but it would be like without restaurants and without shoppings and shops and stuff like that. It's even more to the extreme in Israel because there's no public transportation, nothing is open. So it's like really everything is shut down. And so those who are very religious are also not cooking because they cannot use fire or they cannot use electricity. So basically the leftovers are used most likely also in the day after.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. All right. So just don't waste any food. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, it's not going, it's going into stomachs, and people are just like
Yeah.
sitting, opening a button, and then it comes dessert, and then you're like, oh no.
Yeah.
No.
And so what do you like though? What do you really like?
So I think the silence part, or like the quietness part, is really something that was very important for me. So also,
Mm-hmm.
I come from Jerusalem. It's a big city, and Leipzig
Yeah.
is quite small. And the nature part of Leipzig is like so important and so amazing. The fact that I can take a tram and like in 30 minutes get to like a huge lake that I could swim in, I could take a boat on, I can have a barbecue on. And it's like there's so many things that were like, there's so much nature that if you miss nature, you have it. If there's a good weather like today, for example, you would take a walk and you get into a park, which then you forget there is a city around this park actually. So it's like those
Okay.
kind of like distinctions could be very helpful mentally. And also what I like, obviously, is like the economic part, that was like all the parts that made me leave Israel, and
Mm-hmm.
how they treat religion. Like nobody cares. Like if you say, hey, I'm an atheist, they're like, sure, fine. Oh, good for you. And people could be like, hey, I'm Christian, but they're like, sure, fine, good for you. It's like, they don't care. And it's amazing. And that's how you should live. Like, hey, a lot of the things that a lot of people do care about, that I find nonsense, like, do gay men or gay women, can they get married and can they adopt? They're like, sure, go
Yeah.
ahead. So it's like all those kind of aspects that are really important for me are very much here. And also, I think the mentality of work also, it's a bit different. Like United States is very similar to Israel in regards to
Okay.
like hustle mentality, or like, hey, 9 to 5 is even like short time, you actually work
Right,
more
right.
sometimes.
Uh-huh.
And some bosses are feeling super fine to send you an email at 9 p.m. or like it's Saturday and Sunday. In Germany, it's kind of like, no, we shut down everything. Friday afternoon is like our downtime until Monday morning. Don't even try to speak to us. I'm
Yeah.
happy with this kind of a mentality. I have more, but it's like, yeah, this is
Yeah.
kind of like a lot of it.
And you just mentioned earlier that you are very active in the Israeli community. How did that come? How did you start that?
That was actually quite like another accident, because I joined the group on Facebook because I've decided that I want to learn a lot more about Leipzig, and so I was very active because I'm just in general an active person.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started to host, like, to say like, hey, who wants to meet? Let's get to know each other, la la, kind of stuff. And then the admin of this group, he said, hey, I don't live in Leipzig. Would you like to take the role of an admin here in this group?
Uh-huh.
And so I was like, sure. And then I started to be kind of a bit more active even. And I thought maybe I can lift something like in the community. It didn't really work out, but I'm still in touch with a lot of Israelis in Leipzig. So I would say I'm somewhat involved in the community more than others.
And is this also how you started your relocation agency?
Well, obviously my relocation story helped a lot in
Uh-huh.
that, in the sense of
Uh-huh.
like, I had to collect all the information myself. I did all this job, and I really went through all over the internet, all the Facebook groups, all the websites exist to collect all the knowledge and information. And so I was just like, hey, I have all this knowledge. It's there. And I found during COVID that I just do it for free because in all those
Mm-hmm.
groups anyway, and people are just asking questions, and I'm like, you know what? I hate writing. How about we go on phone calls? And I just, with random people, would go on phone calls for hours, 2 hours, to just then tell them everything that I know. And I saw, oh, I really love it. How about I make it my profession?
Uh-huh.
And so I then decided to join this like program for female entrepreneurs in Leipzig, and they helped me kind of to get into the point where I start the business. But it's really coming from me loving to talk, as you can see,
Yeah.
sharing my
So
knowledge,
great to have
and
somebody like that on a podcast, you know.
I can come every day. I'm super happy. And so really this part of my personality, and also the fact that I really love helping people, and being an expat in Germany is something that I feel really proud of, and I think that it can Germany can benefit from being more international. So I think this is like a
Mhm.
win-win in that situation.
Okay, and so you do this now full time?
Yeah, I do that full time. I started a year and a half ago. So somewhat of like 1 year I'm doing it like full
Okay.
time.
Tell me, what is it called?
It's called Over the Ofek. Ofek in Hebrew is horizon,
Uh-huh.
Ofek. And it also used to be my last name before I got married. So
Okay. Oh,
yeah,
that
that's kind
fits.
of like that's my husband's idea. He's very good in that. He's a creative person, so that's really helpful. Yeah, so we are helping people from all over the world with their relocation process to Germany, starting from like preparing before coming and finding an apartment, and doing the whole bureaucracy part, visa prep,
Oh,
finding
wow.
schools for the
Oh, okay.
children. Yeah.
Oh, wow, interesting. And you just do this for the Leipzig area, or?
No, for all over Germany.
Okay. I will put this in the show notes, the information, and so hopefully people
Thank
can
you.
find you through there. Yes,
For sure.
absolutely. I also wonder, I always ask this everyone. So how did you make friends? How did you meet people?
Oh, it's a wonderful question because this is also part of the things that I tell all my clients. This should be on your to-do list. So
Yeah.
like you have hey, I register in the city hall, I find electricity, I find a SIM card, and I find an apartment. Finding friends, this is also part of it, and should be part of it. So for me, it's quite easy. But I can tell, I will divide it to two things because I go for extroverts and introverts, okay? Because
Oh,
it's
yeah, please. Uh-huh.
different aspects,
That's so
right?
great.
Because extroverts, you don't need a lot to find friends.
Yeah,
You're
no.
out there, you start talking, and somebody is just gonna join the conversation.
Yeah.
But it's just like finding those expat events that all big cities have, even Leipzig although it's not the biggest city, but like a lot of things that are happening. We also create these kinds of events because we know it's important. So like we have like a expat picnic, or all kinds of other events that could be just Christmas market stroll could be really fun.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really that. Also for extroverts, I really think that it's helpful to go into those Facebook groups and just say, hey, I'm new in the city. How about we meet for coffee or for beer or for whatever? And then whoever replies, you just go. With introverts, it's a bit more difficult sometimes. You first need to really put this as a goal because introverts can really just find their own corner and stay there
Mm-hmm.
for most time. So it is really important from the beginning to go a bit outside of the comfort zone and to, find one person you can trust. And then when you have one person that you like and the vibe is good, then to go with that person to smaller events, right? So that person maybe goes to meet other friends and then you go with that person, and that's how you create those connections by just, being plus one with someone.
Okay.
But as long as it's not big events, right? If like 20 people,
It's too
it's
many.
too many, it's too
Yeah.
overwhelming, it's something that you're like, you shut down and you become like a
Yeah.
stone.
Like four
So
people. That would be like.
4 people, 5 people, I wouldn't go more than that, just so that there is a conversation, you're part of it, you're kind of being forced to be put into the position that you're
Mm-hmm.
talking. Then it's a different story. So kind of these are the two approaches I would go for.
Okay. And how did you do it?
I'm an extrovert, so I'm like, yay, I'm here, I'm new in the city. How about we just like get to this coffee place, or how about you tell me which is the best pub, and we would go there and meet. And I would be in like so many of those events, and I was happy, especially because like in the winter you kind of have to force yourself out. So when you find those events, it's better. You breathe some air,
Yeah.
So for me, it was very easy. And then like I stick into one person, and that person takes me to that person, and that person to that
Right.
person. And it's like those connections are really, are happening.
And so I wonder, is your husband also super extroverted? Super, but
No,
he's
he's the
like
introvert
introverted.
one. That's why I know.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I need to push him sometimes. So like, hey, when did you left the house last?
Yeah.
Like, hey, just go out.
So like he just sticks to you kinda, and you show him like new people. But do you know more expats, or do you also have a German friends?
So that's actually something that I've learned like along the way, that the best approach would be first to start with expats and then to meet their German friends. That's kind of like the situation, because with Germans, it's sometimes very hard. And I think you know what I mean, because like you have a whole spectrum between being an acquaintance and to be like an actual friend. And when you're an actual friend, you're like friend for life. You're like the one to call to when something happens, and you're like, you give everything. So, but this jump between being like, I know you, to you're my friend, it's a huge jump, and there is no in between. So it's kind of like either I know you or you're my best friend. So it's like there's no in between.
Yeah.
So the way to do that for me was to find those expats that have maybe a bit of my mentality, or at least they understand what I'm going through. And it is different because we basically are each other's family here, right? We are not only friends, we have somewhat of the family part of it. And then you share something that Germans would not know if they haven't experienced that, or if they are in their own country, you know. So they feel comfortable. They feel comfortable with the language. They feel comfortable with their family that is there. They have their friends from school, and they have friends from their job or whatever. So it's like a lot of them don't put the effort into like go and expand their group of friends. So when you are meeting those expat friends, then and you meet their German friends, you already know that their German friends are more international in vibe and mentality, because they're the friends. And then you also know that they most likely speak English as well. And then, so it's helping like to bridge this gap of like, I don't know how to approach Germans. But we did have this like goal in mind when we came here, like, hey, we have to have German friends. That didn't work out that easily as we thought. Okay. And so that's why I kind of say, yeah, this is the process I would tell people to use.
Because you said like, if the other people speak English, that helps. So you usually still communicate in English?
So also because of my business, most of my clients are speaking English and don't speak German, most likely. That I do. I actually now know more like the bureaucratical German is like my more of like the language that I'm using. But I do have a knack for languages, so it was easier for me. It's not easy at all to learn German, but it was easier for me also to keep it. And so I'm still using it. And because I live in Leipzig, I am still forced to use my language more. So, so I still have that. I do learn. I do still learn, but I do use 3 different languages every day. So like with my husband, I still speak Hebrew. So it's like, I have some days that I have like a language salad in my head. I don't know. So it's like,
and I want to ask you about your band. So how did you meet your other band members?
Okay, so just for everybody to know, I also am a singer in a band. We started a band with my husband. It was actually like an idea of, hey, what do we want to do for fun, like as a couple activity? And then he came up with this idea of swing metal, and I was like, I'm interested. We started working on like the first song, and we really fell in love with it, and we decided, hey, we're gonna do a band for sure. So, and then we just started to go into all those groups of musicians in Leipzig, and there are some websites that you can find musicians in, or Telegram groups.
Is this all like Facebook mostly?
Okay, I'm still the generation that uses a lot of Facebook. Okay, fine, you caught me. But also like there are Telegram groups. There are like the I'm sorry, in Germany you have very old website as well. So like you probably know Kleinanzeigen.
Okay.
So it's like
so it's like I don't know. For the American listeners, it's like something like Craigslist, for example.
Yes, something like Craigslist. So basically, you're posting, "Hey, I'm selling this. I am looking for this. There are apartments there. There are like pets there. So it's like everything." Yeah, so it's very old-fashioned how it looks like. I'm sorry, like a lot of other German websites. So it's kind of like you're still also going into the old-fashioned way. I even see like posters around like, hey, we're looking for like a drummer, stuff like that. So they're also still hanged around with like the number you can contact. Yeah, so then like you have still the old-fashioned ways and the traditional ways, and you also have like those groups. And yeah, I like being in groups, so I think those Facebook groups and Telegram groups are useful in that situation.
Oh, okay. I mean, I don't play any instruments, so I have no idea how to start a band, not even like if you're like new there. So,
Yeah, well, my husband has been a musician for a long time. Also, like he
uh-huh.
started his band at a different band in Israel. So
Okay.
he already has some experience there, and he has almost all the equipment necessary because he's also an audio engineer. So we could also we have our own home studio, so we record all the songs at home. And so he has a lot of knowledge that he brought with him. I brought the knowledge of how to find people
Uh-huh.
already.
Okay.
And we made sure that they all know English. They
Oh,
all
yeah.
speak
Okay.
English. But they're all Germans actually. So we are the only non-Germans in our band.
Okay.
So it's quite cool. Yeah, now we are performing and we have new songs and like original songs as well that we record, and it's really fun. So
Yeah, check out
uh,
Shoo Bee Doom.
Shoo Bee Doom. Yeah, I will show how to write it down like this. Shoo Bee Doom.
Was there anything though that really was a challenge for you?
Absolutely. So I tell also all my clients, Germany is not a wonderland. There are also a lot of challenges, and especially when it comes to use of paper, lack of digitalization, and the speed that everything is happening at. So you probably know, like, things here take time. And if you are the kind of person like me who comes from Israel or the United States or places where things are like much quicker, and then you have to wait for weeks for something that you're like, if it was somewhere else, I would just get it per email immediately.
Yeah.
You're like, what's happening? So it's like, that's also part of the slower pace that you have to get adjusted to. And also, we always joke about the fact that Germany is really like eco-friendly or trying to be eco-friendly, but then everything is being sent per post.
Okay.
And then you're
Oh,
like,
yeah.
why? Why is it still like you register to an app and you get the confirmation per
But you
post?
still have to send it with the mail. You can download it, right? But
No,
you
you
cannot
can
do it.
download. No, you can download, but like you get the, hey, you got the app, or you're now registered per post. Like the confirmation comes per post, or you need like to do identification, and they send you the code in per
Yeah.
post,
Oh,
and you're like,
nice.
now you have to wait 2 weeks to open your bank account because you don't get the code, and it's like, yeah, it's kind of, a lot of those stuff are very weird when it comes to those processes. So they are doing their best to digitalize it
Oh,
or to
God.
make things quicker. But it really is a slow process, and it's not a country that would go just like, hey, I have an idea, let's do it, boom, and then you have it. No,
No,
it's
it
just
takes.
more like we have like a lot of laws that are kind of challenging this whole idea that you just had. How about you don't do that?
Yeah.
So these
So
kind of challenges.
did it affect you with the visa process?
I actually have a very bad experience with that.
Oh.
Not in terms of the actual paperwork. Yes, the paperwork was a
Uh-huh.
pain in the ass. You have to fill out a lot of forms in German, which you're like, when we started, we were not like super amazing with that,
Okay.
obviously. But no, we had a different problem with our visa because I got my Romanian citizenship on time to like exactly when the visa was ending, and they were supposed to kind of prolong it until I get a passport because from some reason the certification for citizenship was not enough. And it doesn't make sense because you're saying, but it is a certification, like official one from
Mm-hmm.
Romania saying she is a Romanian citizen. Like, what do you need? What do you need more for that? But they apparently need a passport. So it's kind of like those laws that are so set in stone. Somebody at one point made them from some unknown reason, and they're going for years and hundreds of years sometimes. Like sometimes the origin of a very, very weird law is hundreds of years ago when there's like no internet, no computers, no
Yeah.
electricity, whatever. And you're like, yeah, it's still a law because why would everybody challenge this law?
Yeah.
So
Well, you cannot change a law, right? It's a law. It has to be there forever.
somebody had a logic behind this. We're not challenging this. There was a point when there was like a horse attached to the car. It was
Right,
like
right,
making sense.
right.
I don't know. So sometimes these are the kind of challenges that you kind of bang your hand like, why does that make sense?
Yeah.
Still does. Still
It's
does.
funny, like with everyone I had here on this podcast who moved to Germany, it's like bureaucracy,
Same challenges, right?
digitism. I mean, and I also like my husband. So my husband is also German, and even like we don't live there for over a decade, and he still complains how slow they work when it comes to like construction sites. You know, on the
Oh my gosh.
plan, it's like you just put like a sign that there is a construction site, and then they start working on it 10 years later, something like that.
I mean, for us, we have a different problem, or I mean, it's or also part of the problem when it comes to construction sites. Like at any given point of time, there are like hundreds construction sites on roads that blocks you from going anywhere. And then you have the autobahn, which you can go as fast as you want, but there is always a construction
Yeah.
site somewhere. And then you're like, why is this an autobahn if I cannot go?
But
So
but
yeah.
it's so funny because you know, like the German reputation is efficiency, you know, and it's like the opposite. If it comes to bureaucracy, it's not.
Also, it's funny that you're mentioning it because we did have a workshop about myths of Germany. Like, what is it people think that Germany is? Like punctual. Hi,
Yeah,
Deutsche
okay.
Bahn.
But like, okay, but
Also,
the people are, but nothing else.
also that has changed. So that also has changed. There are a lot of like people still thinking in like the West and East Germany, yeah, prices wise, and like a lot of factors they went in that were kind of like, hey, this is a myth. How about you learn something about this before you come to Germany? So this is something that is also very important for me when I'm talking to clients. It's reality check. Let's do some reality checks and like what do you have as expectations and what actually happens in Germany. So it's like, yeah, it happens as well.
All right. Well, that's good that you tell them up front. It's not what it's not what you think it is.
It's important. We don't want to portray Germany as a wonderland. We said that. I said that already.
Yeah.
Like it can be amazing for some people. It cannot fit everybody. Like every country cannot fit everybody.
Yeah.
So you have to know what you're coming into. You have to be like with the knowledge, the right knowledge.
Yeah.
When you do that.
Yeah. I have this one more question, but I'm not really sure if you already answered this. But is there anything that you don't get used to?
Yes, somewhat yes. So although it's changing still, I hate using cash. The the use of cash in Germany is still too much present, in my opinion. I even go like as like a protesting action. I'm not going into places where they force me to use like cash. Enough with this. So in Israel, there's barely any use in cash. Like maybe in markets, this also changes a lot. And to be fair, after COVID, it did change a lot in Germany. And I remember coming to Germany and even in like the bakeries, you're not able to pay with card. And I'm like, why is that? And so now they've changed it a bit, but there's still many places where you either have like a minimum amount of payment that you have to do in order to pay with card, or you like there is no option. And so for me, I'm not used to this. I'm still against it. I'm still opposing it until it's like completely changed. And especially after being in so many countries when they're like, oh, we don't accept cash. And you're like, finally, you know? So I'm not used to that. No.
Yeah, but you're right. It changed a lot in the last years because I remember going to Germany after COVID. I'm like, oh, wow, there's a lot of
everywhere.
Cashless. Or you can use your card at a lot of places.
Like it seems like they needed an actual reason.
Yeah, exactly.
to do that.
Don't spread the germs. Yeah.
Let's not spread germs. That was like, sure, okay, I'm fine with if that's like what you go for. Awesome. Other than that, I'm like, there could be times where I can have all the money in the world, but I don't have access to it because it's not in cash. Stop it.
Yeah. All right. I think I have all my questions answered. Thank you so much for being on my podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a blast. Thank you for inviting me.
Of course. Anytime.
Yeah, that was Eden. And definitely check out the show notes because there is a link for her band, Shoo Bee Doom, and also a link for her relocation agency Over the Offec. Yeah, if you are curious about moving to Germany, definitely check out that website and reach out to Eden. She is super nice, as you probably heard in the podcast, and she probably is happy to share some more information with you. That was it from this week. I hope you tune in again next week. And before I forget, if you don't mind, then give the podcast a 5-star rating wherever you listen to podcasts. If you listen to Apple Podcasts, you could also maybe just write a sentence why you like this podcast. And don't forget to push the follow button in the corner of your app, so you will always be notified when there is a new episode out and you will never miss any. You can listen to it right away. All right, that was it from this week. Okay, until then, bye.